The first episode of Secret Invasion opens with Everett K. Ross's meeting with Agent Prescott, who is associating the multiple terrorist attacks happening all over the globe with the Skrulls. Prescott wants Ross to call Nick Fury, who is vacationing in a Sabre space station. But Ross thinks that there's not enough evidence to bring in Fury. So, Prescott shows what he has learned about the Skrulls' plans in order to convince Ross. When Ross says that he'll relay that information to Fury, Prescott realizes something is wrong and attacks Ross. Prescott dies, and Ross goes on the run. He is chased down by a thug. When Ross falls from a building, he's revealed to be a Skrull. The thug turns out to be Talos, and everyone, including Maria Hill, is surprised. Nick Fury makes a homecoming. Just to be clear, he did die during the snap in Infinity War. But when the blip happened, he replaced himself with a Skrull because he had been friends with them since Captain Marvel, as revealed in Spider-Man: Far From Home. He spent his time building a space station to safeguard Earth. Well, technically, it was the Skrulls who were doing the manual labor while he was overseeing things. Now that he's back in the thick of things with Maria Hill and the exiled Talos, he is expected to get his hands dirty. Talos informs Fury that his wife, Soren, is dead. Fury tries to start talking about Gravik, but Talos focuses on how Fury has changed post-blip and that Carol Danvers hasn't helped them in any way. Then Talos comes to the main point that his daughter Jaya, Gravik, and many other Skrulls are apparently angry and want to turn Earth into their new home planet. How? Well, by executing all of humankind. This understandably disturbs Fury. So, he goes for a walk through Moscow. He is abducted by MI6 Special Agent Sonya Falsworth for questioning. In the meantime, Rhodes informs President Ritson that Hill and Fury have gone AWOL, and Ritson simply tells him to deal with it. Back in Moscow, Sonya interrogates Fury about his relationship with the Skrulls, unaware of the fact that Fury has already planted a chip in the office, while Fury interrogates Sonya about her involvement in a heist in Kazakhstan. They both know that they are lying. So they part ways for the time being. An adult Jaya welcomes a refugee Skrull into a place called New Skrullos. It's apparently the place where all the Skrulls are living without being disturbed by humans because it's in a radioactive region, something that the Skrulls are immune to. They are growing the kind of food and beverages that Skrulls used to drink back on their home planet. And they are mingling with the general human populace in order to execute their invasion. Yes, it's an invasion of the body snatchers kind of situation where the warrior Skrulls are shape-shifting into a human and even taking his or her memories, thereby making them indistinguishable from other human beings. Unfortunately, it's so sanitized that the invasion aspect doesn't evoke any emotional reaction. While all this is going on, Fury, Hill, and Talos learn about a former Chechen rebel, Vasily Poprishchin, who could be responsible for a terrorist attack in the middle of Moscow. Fury tells Talos that if Sonya finds out about the Skrulls, she's going to greenlight genocide. So, they need to get to Gravik, or whoever is working with Gravik, before he does something stupid and gets everyone killed. Gravik's right-hand man, Pagan, orders Jaya to go into Moscow and bring the bomb from Vasily to New Skrullos. Before Talos and Fury can get to Vasily, Jaya gets there and leaves with the bomb. Fury and Talos waste their time interrogating Vasily and eventually killing him, while Hill goes after Jaya and tries to stop her. Hill fails, and Jaya gets away. Then Talos catches up and pleads with his daughter to give up the bomb and leave Gravik. But she refuses, especially after learning that her mother is dead. Here's the thing, and this might be a pet peeve, nobody goes after Jaya. They just give up the chase because the plot needs Jaya to deliver the bomb to Gravik. But what about believability? Shouldn't a chase stop when it's literally not possible to continue it anymore? Well, the makers of Secret Invasion think otherwise. Nick Fury and Maria Hill have a pretty redundant conversation about what he has been up to and how the world has changed. These two characters are having this conversation for the first time after many years. But this exact conversation has been done to death by every other Marvel show and movie. Back in New Skrullos, Jaya delivers the bombs to Pagan and then goes to meet Talos to tell him about the bombs. They start an argument about Soren's death, but as soon as Talos insinuates that Gravik is responsible for her death, Jaya shuts up. Instead, they talk about the terrorist attack. Jaya says that there are so many operatives in the field that it's difficult for her to determine who is from New Skrullos. So, she's going to mark the bags, and that's how Fury, Talos, and Hill will be able to track them. The whole mission goes sideways, especially after Fury starts to hallucinate, just like he was doing before he got kidnapped by Sonya's men. By the way, I'm not sure if these are hallucinations or Gravik's shape-shifting into the things that haunt Fury. At the end of Secret Invasion, Episode 1, the bombs go off, and Gravik takes Fury's form to kill Hill. He tries to kill Fury too but fails. Hill dies, thinking that Fury killed him. And this is supposed to be a pretty heartbreaking moment for Fury as well as the audience. Episode 2 of Secret Invasion begins with two flashbacks, one in 1995 and the other in 1997. In the former, we see Fury working with the Skrulls in deep space. This was the time when they were presumably still living in Skrullos and weren't challenged by the Kree. In 1997, we pick up after the destruction of Skrullos. The remaining Skrulls who could flee were brought to Earth by Fury. He made them a promise to find them a new home with Carol Denver's help, Mrs. Marvel. All he asked in return was their promise that they would keep Earth safe. Soren, Jaya's mother and Talos' wife, was the first one to take this pledge and others followed suit. We also learn that this was when Fury was first introduced to Gravik, who lost both his parents in the last stand against the Kree. He escaped and manned a ship all by himself to arrive at Earth. Then the narrative cuts to the present day where Fury is being dragged away from Hill's dead body by Talos, while Gravik and Jaya are escaping from the scene of the crime. Talos and Fury travel to Warsaw. Agent Hill's tragic death still hasn't sunk in. Fury questions Talos about the destruction of Skrullos and asks Talos if there is something he doesn't know about it. Talos reveals that when Fury didn't give them a new home planet, he sent a signal to all the Skrulls scattered all over the galaxy to come to Earth. Talos obviously assumed that Earth would simply accept the emergence of a new species that can shapeshift at will. But, as pointed out by Fury, humans have been at war with themselves since they could stand up on their own 2 feet. Humans have divided each other on the basis of their country of origin, skin color, gender, and more. So, it's stupid to assume that humankind will be open to millions of humanoids from outer space. By the way, during this shouting match, Talos rightfully points out that Fury was okay with the presence of the Skrulls as long as they were doing unpaid labor for the humans. Now that they've started to fight for their rights to stay on this planet, Fury is angry about it, which is hypocritical. After parting ways with Talos, Fury meets Hill's mother at the ceremony where the deceased's body is handed over to the family and tells her the truth about Hill's demise because no one else is doing it. That conversation adds to Fury's sense of guilt because he is blamed for Hill's death by her mother. As per the newscasters, 2,000 innocent people have died in the blast and the major suspects are a radical group called Americans Against Russia. The Skrull going by the identity of Martin Wallace has been arrested. UK Prime Minister Pamela Lawton and NATO Secretary General Sergio Caspani respond to this incident by saying that they are taking appropriate action, while an American newscaster says that America shouldn't be blamed at all for this mishap. The UK PM Pamela Lawton and NATO Secretary General Sergio Caspani are among those who denounce the act. It turns out that Gravik is a part of some council that features the above emissaries. Actually, Lawton and Caspani are Skrulls disguised as humans. The council also features Shirley, Chris Stearns, and Jack Hukbin. Gravik establishes the bottom line: he will take Earth for the Skrulls at all costs. Fury failed in his promise and this is them holding up their end of the bargain. Lawton suggests they nominate Gravik as their wartime leader with total and unchecked powers. Everyone except Shirley opposes this proposition because she thinks that war isn't the solution. She counters Gravik's claim about humans being self-destructive in nature by pointing out that the Skrulls have turned into refugees because they also waged too many wars. Gravik makes a sly comment to show that Shirley's non-violent methods are unrealistic but lets her walk away from the meeting unscathed. Shirley immediately calls up Talos to let him know about this recent development so that he can prepare for his next step. Meanwhile, Jaya continues to spy for Gravik as she follows an unsuspecting pagan into the innermost cells of the plant in New Skrullos. She ends up in a secret vault where a couple, the Daltons, are conducting weird experiments. The end results aren't shown but the bright light emanating from the experiment indicates that they aren't making anything productive. Rhodes attends an international conference where he is held responsible for Fury's presence during the bombing in Moscow. The whole conversation goes in circles but what really ticked me off is that Rhodes makes a joke about carpet bombing Slovakia because its representative is scoffing at his statements. After the conclusion of that meeting, Rhodes meets Fury. They have yet another cyclical conversation that sounds political but actually isn't. That ends with Rhodes firing Fury. Sonya breaks into the torture chamber where the Skrull Martin Wallace is being, well, tortured into revealing Gravik's whereabouts. Wallace doesn't intend to yield, so Sonya cuts off one of his fingers just to confirm that he is indeed a Skrull. Jaya goes through the Skrulls database created by Rosa Dalton and finds out that they've DNA traces of Groot, the frost beast from Jotunheim which was transported to Earth in Thor, The Dark World, Cull Obsidian from Avengers Infinity War and Endgame, and Project Extremis from Iron Man 3. I understand how the Skrulls could have gotten their hands on all of them. What I don't understand is how did the Skrulls get the DNA samples of Cull Obsidian because he was obliterated when Tony Stark snapped his fingers? Or is it from pre-snap Cull Obsidian whose hand was lying somewhere in New York City after it was cut off by Wong? But wouldn't that have been affected by Tony's snap too? So many questions, so few answers. Moving on with the plot, Gravik almost catches Jaya going through the database, but Jaya manages to convince him that she's looking into the newest addition to New Skrullos, Beto. By the looks of it, Jaya's charm doesn't work on Gravik. Yet, he decides to bring her and Beto to Wallace's rescue party. Talking Wallace, he is injected with a kind of serum that's making his insides boil. Unable to hold back any more information, Wallace blurts out that the Skrulls are making a machine that can make them stronger. This confirms that the Daltons are imbuing the Skrulls with the powers of Groot, Frost Beasts, Cull Obsidian, and Extremis. Once Sonya is done, she escapes while Gravik and Pagon shoot their way into the torture chamber. They extract Wallace, but Gravik realizes that he has given up too much information. So, they kill him. Going by the way Gravik looks at Jaya, he wants her to know that if she betrays him, she's going to die exactly like Wallace. At the end of Secret Invasion Episode 2, we see Fury traveling to a remote place to meet his wife, who is a Skrull. She seems to be the same Skrull who introduced Gravik to Fury. As evident by their chemistry, Fury has been in contact with her. But neither S.H.I.E.L.D. nor anyone else in the galaxy is aware of this. As the episode begins, the newest recruit of Gravik's core field operatives, Beto, finds himself assigned to an infiltration mission and casually questions his superior about whether the consequences of bringing chaos to humanity will be favorable for the Skrulls. Just like the recruits are indoctrinated by Gravik's brainwashing during their initiation procedure, Beto once again gets fed the false promises and lies of the Greater Skrull, making their treacherous acts justifiable. Along with the other two Skrull agents, Beto is sent to infiltrate the British Royal Navy and use a nuclear submarine to strike a UN aircraft. In the previous episode, Jaya found out about Gravik's secret initiative to experiment on Skrulls to make them stronger. Gravik had also hinted to the Skrull Council members about his scheme against the more formidable, superpowered protectors of Earth. In this episode, Gravik invites the Council to his experimentation chambers and shares his plan for mutating the entirety of the Skrull population even further to adopt various superpowers. He also reveals his plan about using the Royal Navy to attack the UN aircraft, which will inevitably initiate warfare, and the mutated Super Skrulls will use this ruckus as an opportunity to obliterate humanity once and for all. Later, in his conversation with Jaya, Gravik expresses his concerns about her seemingly oscillating loyalty, which she somehow evades. In the last episode, Talos communicated with the ousted Skrull Council member Shirley Sagar about organizing a parley with Gravik to discuss and sort out the situation before something unthinkable happened. Gravik takes Jaya along with her to attend the meeting. A flashback sequence of New York in the year 1998 is shown as S.H.I.E.L.D. agent Nick Fury meets the agency's Skrull co-op Vera privately and falls in love with her. The scene shifts to the Fury household, where Nick Fury is catching up with his Skrull wife, Priscilla, or should we say Vera, as this is the first time since Blip that Fury has come back to his home. Fury's past experience with Talos suppressing information about millions of Skrulls secretly taking refuge on Earth has rattled him, and he questions Vera's motivations while he was gone, whether she came into contact with Gravik or not. She states that Fury's prolonged absence made her feel vulnerable, and she became herself, the self that was present long before Fury came into her life. A call to Vera interrupts their conversation, and Fury gives her space to attend to it, but as soon as Vera leaves, Fury gets really attentive to her mobile. Leaving New Skrullos in Russia, Gravik and Jaya fly to London as the former prepares to parley with Talos. Jaya overhears Gravik's conversation about the impending attack on a UN aircraft and details about the nuclear submarine, which she secretly forwards to her father Talos using a burner phone. Talos and Gravik meet at the National Portrait Gallery, and Talos firmly asks him to refrain from walking down a destructive path that might cause the extinction of the Skrull species. Gravik thinks lowly of human beings, but Talos quickly reminds him that as divided as the humans might seem, they will unite against a common enemy if the Skrull conspiracy blows up. Unable to reason with Gravik, Talos states that he will inform the world government about the nature of the crisis they are facing, which will nullify Skrull's element of surprise. Gravik provokes Talos by repeatedly using Jaya's name, which results in Talos stabbing him through the hand and threatening him before leaving. Gravik returns with Jaya to Russia. Fury meets with Talos, asks for his help, and learns about the upcoming attack on the UN delegation. Outrage calls his old associate, MI6 Chief Sonya Falsworth, about the possibility of a Skrull operative being in command of the nuclear submarine and gets his address from her. En route, some funny banter ensues between two old friends, Talos and Fury, about dogs, which leads to Fury casually mentioning how he has had to clean up the Skrulls' mess for 3 decades. Talos is quick to give him a reminder about how the States and Fury both profiteered from using the Skrull covert ops in their off-the-record missions while never tending to the other side of the bargain. If anything, they should be at least thankful to Talos and his loyal Skrulls for that. Reaching the address of the High Command, Talos and Fury manage to take out the security despite their cover being blown and try to force the rebel Skrull posing as the High Command to call off the launch as the impending disaster is about to happen. However, Skrull proves to be too adamant, and Talos can't even use his impersonation skills as he doesn't know the passcode entailing the command. Talos seems to be in trigger-happy mode, as after being provoked by the rebel Skrull, he also ends up killing him. Racing against time, Talos calls Jaya for help, who breaks inside Gravik's research facility and informs him about the passcode. During this sequence, world leaders and important figures are seen tied in the fracking pods in a catatonic state, getting their memories extracted, which are being used by the impersonators of the Skrull Council. Using the passcode provided by Jaya, Fury, and Talos manage to save the day, momentarily averting the crisis but perhaps only stalling it in the long run. On the other hand, Jaya realizes betraying Gravik in such a manner will entail severe repercussions and tries to flee from New Skrullos. She is stopped in her tracks by Gravik at the outer section of the colony, who reveals he deliberately let Jaya know about the details of the impending attack, as snuffing out the traitor in Skrulls' ranks was more important to him than taking care of a few UN delegates. Jaya chastises him, stating he will not be remembered as a leader but rather as the worst enemy of their species, which proves to be her last words as Gravik shoots her to death. On the other side of the world, Vera leaves the Fury household, gets her gun from a vault, and is suddenly contacted by one of Gravik's men. It seems like Fury's absence took too much of a toll on the Skrull operative, and she decided to rely on the people she shared ancestry with. Or perhaps it is a careful ploy by her to get close to Gravik and earn his trust, given the fact that she was the one who introduced Fury to him. If not, it will likely end Fury's credibility both to the world and to himself. In the 3rd episode, we saw Talos going for a parley meeting with Gravik, which ended with Talos threatening to kill Gravik if he uttered Jaya's name. Nick Fury suspected that Priscilla was working with the Skrulls to take over Earth, but Priscilla assured him that she wasn't, even though we saw her plotting with Rhodes, a Skrull, who was speaking on Gravik's behalf. Fury and Talos learned through Jaya that the rebel Skrulls were trying to obliterate a plane carrying a UN delegation. So, their mission became all about stopping that from happening. That said, the attack turned out to be a mole hunt being conducted by Gravik, and when he found out that Jaya was that mole, he shot her down. But Jaya is not dead. Jaya did some of that sci-fi mumbo-jumbo in the machine that's available in New Skrullos and made herself invincible. We get a conversation between Fury and Priscilla right after the Battle of New York, where they bond over poetry and their love for each other. In the present day, we see Priscilla apparently plotting with Rhodes to kill off Fury. This moment is supposed to make our hearts ache because it shows how the circumstances have killed Fury and Priscilla's bond. Meanwhile, Gravik and his men head over to conduct a mission while pretending to be Russians. Talos and Jaya have a conversation about their next move. When Talos starts to talk about his plan to convince the president to let all the Skrulls live on Earth by showing humans that they aren't harmful creatures, Jaya gets angry because she thinks it's cowardice. Because once you show them that you're ready to be subservient, there's no end to the oppression. Priscilla returns home only to find that Fury is already there. Fury knows that Priscilla is working for Gravik and Rhodes. So, after pulling out their guns, Fury asks Priscilla about the person whose skin she's wearing. She says that the woman was a doctor suffering from a heart defect, and she was on her deathbed. And after they became quite close, she asked the doctor if she could assume her identity. The doctor had 3 conditions, though. 1, Vera had to bury her in the sea. 2, she had to look after the doctor's parents. 3, Vera wouldn't hurt Fury. With that out of the way, Fury and Priscilla recite the poem she was reading back in 2012 and then shoot at each other. Fury shoots at the wall behind Priscilla, and Priscilla shoots at the bookshelf behind Fury. Fury mentions that the Skrulls who are planning to take over the Earth will come for Priscilla. Priscilla asks a version of the "Would you still love me if I was a worm?" question as she wonders if Fury would have loved her if she was in her own Skrull skin, and Fury gives a non-answer. He goes for Rhodes next, who is revealed to be a female Skrull. Fury wants Rhodes to let him work as an agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. again. Rhodes says that won't be possible because there's videographic proof of him shooting Hill. Fury probably knew that was going to be his answer. So, he focuses on selling Rhodes his ancestral alcohol, which is actually laced with tracking devices. Fury doesn't hide that fact, but Rhodes apparently doesn't buy it and unknowingly gets marked with Fury's nanotech. President Ritson arrives in England for a meeting with the Russians, and Rhodes briefs him on how he should behave with them. Going by Rhodes' erratic behavior, Ritson realizes that Rhodes is drunk and tells his assistant to get him some coffee so that he can sober up. On the way, the president's convoy is attacked by Gravik. Talos and Fury, who have been following Rhodes via the liquid tracker, reach the spot and try to rescue Ritson. Gravik's plan is to kidnap Ritson and use him as leverage to get control over Earth, and Fury and Talos have to ensure that that doesn't happen because that'll just lead to an all-out war. Gravik shows off his Groot powers as well as his extremist powers. Talos tries to get Ritson out of his upturned car but is shot in the process, which forces him to change into his Skrull form. This freaks everyone out, but Fury assures them that Talos is friendly. Fury secures Ritson, while Gravik gets to Talos, stabs him brutally, and then escapes. Since the president's security is at stake, Fury leaves Talos to bleed out on the street. This should be a turning point for everyone, to be honest. Fury has proven that he is a government employee through. He has shown that he doesn't care if his friends live or die until and unless the President of America is okay. If anyone has seen what Talos did, that should convince them that there are Skrulls who are willing to coexist with humans. Episode 5 of Secret Invasion begins with President Ritson being rushed to the ICU. He is critically injured and Fury whispers in his ear, "Do not trust Rhodes." He sits outside the room to stand guard and keep Ritson alive. Meanwhile, Pagon has doubts about Gravik's leadership. His plan failed and the new Skrullos leader did not kill Fury when he had the chance. It is revealed that Gravik wants the DNA of the Avengers that Fury has hidden somewhere. In his rage, Gravik drives his long alien whip through Pagon's heart, killing him. He calls the other Skrulls around Pagon, faceless and nameless. Beto is especially shocked to see this as the operatives are sent to kill Vera for disobeying Gravik's order. Gravik also calls Rhodes and asks him to keep Ritson alive. The leader wants Ritson to think that the Skrulls were behind the attacks with the Russians, even as news channels broadcast Talos' heroic acts. Rhodes is instructed to show Ritson that new Skrullos, in Russia as well to further drill the belief in him. Fury puts a gun on Rhodes' neck when he comes to the hospital. But Fury cannot do anything to show Rhodes is a Skrull except kill him. To his utter shock, Rhodes has already put out the video where Gravik as Fury killed Maria. The news goes viral within hours. Sonya shoots SIS director Weatherby in the leg to expose him as a Skrull. Why didn't Fury do something like this? After he is exposed, he gives up the location of Dr. Rosa Dalton. Gravik is attacked by the rebelling Skrulls, including Beto. But he is too powerful for them. He publicly murders Beto as a message not to question any action of his. Meanwhile, Fury meets Jaya at a secret location. He beseeches her to stand up and not let her father's heroic death go to waste. She reveals that Gravik did not find the harvest and instead used Cull Obsidian, one of Thanos' sons, and Flora Colossus Groot DNA in the machine. Sonya meets with Dalton and her partner Victor at her home laboratory. She sets it on fire after Rosa explains to her how the machine works. Sonya shoots Victor in the head after he threatens to kill Rosa. Jaya sits with Talos' dead body and prepares to bury it. She goes to Priscilla for help. They perform the last rites and Jaya offers her mother's ring to the pyre. After the funeral, Jaya asks why Priscilla is waiting for Gravik's men to kill him. She recalls how she fell in love with the house when she first saw it and imagined a life with Fury. Suddenly, attackers break into the house, resulting in a battle between them and Jaya and Priscilla. Rhodes meets with Ritson and he lays Gravik's plan on him. He pushes Ritson to launch a strike on the new Skrullos, claiming that Sonya is supporting it. Fury uses the Widow's Veil to slip past airport security and meets with Sonya in Finland. Sonya reveals that she didn't know Rhodes was a Skrull. And since the US is an ally, she corroborated the new Skrullos' location. Gravik has threatened Fury to give him the harvest or else he will allow the strike to destroy their home base. He is prepared to kill his own community if that is what it takes to win the war. Fury explains that the harvest is the collective DNA of all the Avengers who fought in the Battle of Earth. It contains the DNA of even Carol Danvers, the strongest of them all. Gravik was a part of the party that collected the samples but doesn't know its location. At one of Fury's graves in Finland, he shows Sonya the vial. Although Fury had changed its location to protect it from Gravik, now he is giving it away. He dons his iconic long black overcoat and eye patch, telling someone over the phone, "It's time, let's finish this," as the episode draws to a close. The conflict between humans and the shape-shifting aliens known as Skrulls which was taking its initial course under the shadows of bureaucracy, comes out in its messiest form in the Secret Invasion season finale as Fury and Sonya Falsworth rush to foil Gravik's plan to initiate the Third World War. Secret Invasion Episode 6 begins with Fury calling his Skrull wife, Priscilla, one last time to settle the disagreements between them that stemmed from their previous argument. After all, the mission he is going to embark on, a direct confrontation with Gravik, might prove his last one, and he needs to make amends with his beloved before that. Vara urges Fury not to put his life at risk, knowing full well how futile it is. In reply, Fury only asks her to take care of herself, and Vara hangs up. Fury uses a decoy car to distract the guards posted outside New Skrullos and eliminates them swiftly. Going through the Skrull colony, Fury finds it to be empty and comes across the room where Gravik and his comrades killed the operatives who rebelled against him. New Skrullos were established in the defunct nuclear power plant thanks to the Skrulls having physiological immunity against radioactivity, which seems to have taken hold of Fury as his health starts worsening the longer he stays inside the colony. Fury makes his way further inside and finally arrives at the chamber where the Super Skrull experiment was taking place using Dr. Rosa Dalton's machine, where he finds Gravik waiting for him. An infuriated Gravik berates Fury for how he utilized him along with the other Skrulls to further the cause of humanity while effectively ignoring his side of the bargain, which was to find a new home planet for the displaced Skrull refugees. Gravik reminds him of the time when, as his youngest covert Skrull operative, Gravik was instructed by Fury to kill someone, whose face Gravik wears to this day as a reminder of how he destroyed someone's family just to impress Fury, who was an idol to him and a number of other Skrull operatives. Gravik carried the guilt and pain of taking lives, considering he did those actions under Fury's order for the ultimate betterment of Skrulls, and it was Fury's betrayal that led Gravik down such a destructive path that has burned both humans and Skrulls relentlessly since. More than the espionage-themed narrative of the series, Secret Invasion has so far turned out to be a thesis on the MCU's political landscape's single most important character, Nick Fury, with the reckoning of all his successes and failures culminating in another world-threatening event. The personal stake makes it imperative that it be he who takes the final stand against Gravik, something he knows as well. On the other hand, Rhodey impersonating Rava tries her best to gaslight POTUS by saying that the Skrull-Russian alliance is a horrifying threat to national security and that taking immediate, responsive action is necessary. Brushing aside the opinions of an admiral about the possibility of the attack being staged, Skrull Rhodes shows the president's satellite footage of Russian tanks gathering across the borders of Finland and Ukraine. Rhodes asks Ritson to consider such tactics as primary acts of aggression undertaken by Russia and almost pleads with him to initiate an airstrike on them. Rhodes' desperation has reached the point that he has even prepared the president's address to people beforehand. However, before Rhodes can delineate more of these red flags, Sonya Falsworth calls him, stating that Fury, finally losing his mental capacity, is on his way to attack the president and that they need to take the POTUS to the upper levels of the clinic. As Rhodes and the rest of the security rush to take Ritson to the topmost level, one by one, every single operative gets tranquil by the unseen assailants, all except Rhodes. At New Skrullos, Fury acknowledges his past mistakes of abandoning his duties and responsibilities to Skrull and that he feels responsible for Gravik, the youngest Skrull whom he had exploited all those years ago. Fury urges Gravik to leave the planet along with the remaining Skrull population in exchange for the harvest, which he has brought with him. As Fury hands Gravik the vial containing the harvest, Gravik tests it to confirm its purity, and it is shown that DNA samples of almost the entire gallery of superpowered characters are accumulated in it. Fury's condition keeps worsening, and Gravik decides to use the harvest on himself while Fury is still inside the machine. Gravik emerges as the strongest version of Super Skrull, with the combined might of Carol Danvers, Hulk, Cull Obsidian, Proxima Midnight, Mantis, Korg, and many other powerhouses, and starts thrashing Fury to vent his frustration. However, he is shocked out of his wits when Fury matches his strength and sends him flying across the room, and soon the switcheroo is revealed as, on the other side of the globe, Sonya and the real Nick Fury corner Skrull Rhodes in front of President Ritson. It was Jaya who was impersonating Fury in front of Gravik all along, and thanks to Gravik's overconfidence and arrogance, now she shares the exact same powers Gravik does. A prolonged battle between the two begins as Jaya is charged to exact revenge from her former comrade, who is responsible for the deaths of both her parents. At London, Fury and Sonya try to convince a confused President Ritson about Skrull Rhodes' deception and urge him to call off the airstrike. An air of mistrust pervades momentarily, which clears off pretty easily as Rava, Skrull Rhodes, disarms Sonya to shoot down Fury, only to end up getting headshot herself, and in her final moment, her body changes back to her Skrull form. Seeing the gravity of the Skrull invasion firsthand, Ritson wastes no time calling off the strike and preparing for a public address. At New Skrullos, Jaya uses Captain Marvel's energy blast to kill Gravik once and for all and rescues all the bureaucracy, media personnel, and other persons of importance, among whom Agent Ross and the real Colonel James Rhodes are present. Ritson makes a precise yet fierce public address about the Skrull invasion, which indicates a strong anti-alien policy the USA will undertake from this point on, along with hunting down all the Skrulls. As an immediate reactionary step, a hit squad is formed that starts butchering the Skrull suspects, and aside from some successful takedowns, some humans get killed during the process as well, and the Prime Minister of the United Kingdom, the real one, is shown to be a victim of such deaths. The condition of the Skrulls from this point on seems to mimic how the X-Men were discriminated against in comics. Sonya Falsworth visits Jaya and asks for her assistance in exchange for help against the Skrull struggle against Ritson's manhunt, and unlike the Talos-Fury relationship, they agree to do away with emotional complexities from the get-go, as service in exchange for service will be the only intricacy they are willing to be concerned with. Fury visits Priscilla for a final farewell, as he is going to return to the SABR base to simultaneously strengthen Earth's aerospace defenses while searching for a way to resolve the Skrull situation. After calling President Ritson, Fury expresses his disappointment with the approach he took about the Skrull situation, which turned an already bad situation worse. In reply, Ritson scoffs at him, stating Fury should take the Skrulls off the planet if he is indeed that concerned about them. In the end, Fury kind of does so, as Priscilla arrives to see off her husband, and Fury requests that she come with him as well. Fury states that the Kree have agreed on a peace treaty with the Skrulls, and Vara is needed as a mediator during the discussion. Now confident in her own skin, Vara finally ditches her human identity of Priscilla Davis, appears in her green reptilian Skrull form, and Fury kisses her. A quest that began with testing their marriage ended with mending it in a new dynamic. However, the biggest takeaway from the finale is Jaya emerging as possibly the physically strongest MCU character till now. With the abilities of several dozens of super beings, she is the capable leader to protect the now most vulnerable Skrulls, and her position in the larger MCU narrative is going to be of seminal importance now that Avengers, Kang Dynasty and Avengers, Secret Wars will bring multiversal threats to the Prime Earth. Thank you for joining us on this journey, and I hope you enjoyed the final episode of Secret Invasion. We will meet in the next video.